In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you the exact differences that I notice and that I've personally seen from reps doing $3,000 to $5,000 per month to reps doing around $30,000 to $35,000 per month. Now, there's obviously multiple traits that a sales rep has to have and multiple different skill sets, so I've got a few notes that I'll be going over. But for me personally, I've been in the seat of a $3,000 to $5,000 per month rep and the seat of a $30,000 to $35,000 per month rep. I now manage multiple reps doing anywhere from $3,000 to $35,000. So I wanted to create this video so that you as a business owner can understand exactly what you need to train your team on or should train your team on. Should's an interesting word there. And if you're a rep, you can understand the differences between maybe where you are now and what a $30,000 to $35,000 per month closer sales rep thinks of and how they hold themselves as well. Again, I want to cover a few basic points because there's obviously the typical kind of 6 foundational pillars, I guess you could say, that you essentially need to have before we dive into the deeper requirements, I guess you could say. Now, everyone's different. Again, this is just from my experience of closing over around $3 to $3.2 million in revenue and then managing teams doing anywhere from $20,000 per month all the way up to about $350,000 per month. Let's jump into it. So the first thing you need to understand and that I install into the reps is helping them understand, well, I first identify what they think sales is and then help them install new beliefs around what sales truly is. Now, I had one rep once say to me, sales is pushy, sales is sleazy. Interesting, okay? How do you feel as though you're going to become a top performer if you feel as though you're pushing people over the line, if you feel as though you're sleazy? Essentially, the easiest definition is that you're helping a person make a decision that's going to help them. That's how you need to be able to frame your job. That's how you need to be able to frame your role, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're helping someone make a decision that by them making that decision, it's ultimately going to help them achieve whatever they want to achieve. That's number one. The belief and the understanding the definition of sales is so important. Literally breaking it down to the ground, the foundational levels. If you have the wrong definition or the wrong belief of sales, you'll never be able to perform at the highest level. Number 2, you need to understand influence. Okay, influence is a big word. You don't necessarily need to understand it at its deep root, but you need to understand the number one thing about influence, because essentially, although you're guiding someone to a new location or a new destination, you're also being able to influence them to change their beliefs and change how they view the world. And the number one rule of influence is focus. If you don't have focus on your calls, if your prospect doesn't have focus in you, you'll never be able to close a deal. And that's just the basics. Again, these are the kind of the 6 basic fundamental things you need to understand as a rep. Now, number 2, they use frameworks, not scripts. So all the reps I work with, when I was performing, as myself, I was never using a script, I was using a framework. If you're using a script, it's a controversial topic, okay? Very controversial topic, but if you're using a script, you're going to be naturally robotic, okay? Average closers either read scripts or have nothing. Top closers have the structure in their bones, okay? So you have the framework in their bones, and then you can go down and go in different directions if you need to, rather than just being rigid and having to stick to something someone else wrote for you to read. It's never going to be natural. It's never going to be open enough to be able to influence. Let's keep moving through. The top closers that I work with, a really simple one. They use precise language, okay? Every word that they use, every word that we use does work. There's not a single word that doesn't help move the needle forward. There's no could, probablys, if, maybes, buts, anything like that. Vague language is leaking authority. You must have authority in your language. You must hold yourself to a high standard and speak at that standard so that you're seen, and more importantly, the energy getting portrayed from you, your frequency is in leadership and love. That way you're able to guide people. Number 5, tonality. I don't need to touch on this one. You need to be able to change your tonality to be able to come across in different ways. And number 6, this is a pretty basic one, okay? But they qualify it before they pitch. Again, these are the generic basics. If you're not qualifying a prospect, getting the deep reason why, obviously, going deep in discovery, you're never going to be able to have success, and essentially you're just going to keep getting objections. Now, people train for objections. When you train for objections, you're essentially just putting out the frequency that you're going to get objections. Controversial topic, a debatable one. Obviously, you need to have objection handling skills, but if you're not qualifying the prospect and diving deep, when I say qualifying, diving deep into why they're actually looking to do it and if they're a suitable fit for the program or whatever you're selling, you're never going to get a sale. Cool. They're the basics. Every top closer, every top rep has to have a decent understanding of those basics, okay? So let's dive into the specifics, because essentially the basics aren't going to separate you from 3K a month to 35K a month. There's a few deeper things from my understanding and my beliefs. Again, this is just my opinions, don't attack me, of what I've seen. So, number one, the 6 traits. This is the biggest trait, okay? And you, as soon as I say this, you'll probably sigh because you've probably heard it before, but it is the internal versus the external mindset, okay? What do I mean by that? There's two lenses that we essentially view our entire life through. Now, obviously there's multiple different lenses. People wear so many different lenses in life. Everyone has a different lens of life. But essentially, if you dive deep enough, there's only 2. There's an internal lens where you can take responsibility for everything that you do and realize that life is a reflection of yourself and you're in complete control, the internal lens. Or you can have the external lens where I can't control anything, everything's, I don't even know what an external lens looks like anymore because it's just so disgusting to even think about. Discussing's a wild word there, but I'm just being very raw here. So external lens is blaming other people, blaming other circumstances, not taking responsibility, okay? The basics, okay? Let's understand the 2 different lenses. What rep do we feel as though has the internal lens, the 3K a month rep or the 35K a month rep? I'll let you answer that question. The top closer, when a call goes south, they ask one question: what did I miss? Where did my state drop? Okay, what could have I said differently? How can I take this and internalize it and be better? The average closer: why was the lead bad? The offer was too expensive. Why doesn't the manager get it? Etc. It's an external lens. Okay, so same call, 2 different reviews, 2 different perspectives. One closer gets sharper, the other repeats the same pattern next week because they're not understanding that they're in control. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, this is my favorite one, over the internal versus external. It's the frame that they put the prospect in consistently throughout the call. Now, what do I mean by frame? I do not just mean the agenda. Okay, I do not just mean the first 30 seconds of the call. Obviously, that's important. But as you dive deeper, you realize you can put a frame around every single question that you ask to a prospect in order to get them to sell themselves to you, to walk closer towards their goal, rather than you chasing them with questions after questions after questions. I can now essentially use frames to be able to ask 2 to 3, maybe 4 or 5 questions in a discovery and get the exact answers that I want and the exact depth that I need. So, what is a frame? Well, we'll use this example here that I've got now. We'll use the why now. Okay, obviously to be able to create urgency, you have to understand why they're looking to actually move forward now. Very, very basic example. Having no frame on this question. So this is what an average closer would do, is just ask the question. Where I was literally training a rep on this morning. How important context is before the question so that they know why you're asking and what answer to give, essentially. So no frame would be, why is it now that you're looking to improve your health? No frame. Okay, I had a frame. When it comes to health and fitness, a lot of people just continue to neglect it or push it away until it's too late, or they just continuously push it away because they think they can just always work on their health. Once they get the salary, once they get the right job, they'll be able to work on their health, right? You understand that, Mr. Prospect? So for you, why is it that you are now serious about changing and not acting like most people, but actually willing to make that change? Now, it's just a raw, rough example, but I've now put a context, I've now put a frame around that question. So I've put a bit of an us versus them frame. Most people would do this. Why are you willing to actually do this? They're always going to sell themselves on exactly why they're that type of individual, rather than the no frame question of, why is it now that you're looking to improve your health? Because I want to be healthy for my kids. Okay, it's a much deeper question. Again, that was a very raw example. So a top closer opens by setting the frame and then consistently updates the frame to move the prospect towards the goal. So as the call goes on, I'm consistently updating the frame. An average closer opens up with the classic frame, hey, this is what we're going to go over, and then I'll break down everything that we do sound good. And they never set a new frame around different questions as well. Chase Hughes, one of the most influential people on the planet, someone that understands human needs, human behaviors, and psychology at probably the deepest level, says that when you engineer, what you engineer are conditions. Engineer the right conditions, you can get anyone to do anything. So I'm essentially engineering the conditions of how that prospect will answer the question. Cool. That's my favorite one. I know this is going on. Number three, okay? I always talk about this one on my bit more of my private channel. So if you want to tap into a bit more psychology, mindset stuff, I guess you could say, this is what I cover a lot, and I'm going to be diving a lot deeper on that channel as well. But number three is the self-image that a rep has of themselves. The most important thing that benefited my career was exactly how I viewed myself, exactly how I viewed my worth. If you view yourself as a rep that is worth $5,000 per month, long and behold, what are you going to earn? What are you going to receive because of that self-image? Well, you're going to get in return $5,000 per month. If you view yourself and hold yourself truly with 100% conviction that you're worth $35,000 per month, and obviously have actions that align with that self-identity, long and behold, what's going to occur? You're going to earn that amount of money. Okay, so I always like to train my reps and the people that I work with, even the offer owners, the business owners that I work with, to have the self-image of a leader. You have high enough awareness, higher awareness than most people, lead these people to a destination. When you're a leader, you put the other person or the team in your best interest, not yourself. And that's very important because people can feel that in your frequency. Okay, so that's number three, self-image. Be a leader, not a closer. Now, number four, this is something that's not really spoken about in the online space. So probably an overlooked one, but again, it ties in with self-image a little bit, but if you tap into this and truly start believing and have this mindset, I guess you could say the results that you'll get will drastically increase. So again, it's not really mentioned. I don't hear too many people hear about it or talk about it, but everyone talks about being an online sales rep or a high ticket closer or a setter, a DM setter. Okay, that's great. But you're putting yourself in that identity frame. What I teach and what I want to install into all the people that I work with is to have a career mindset. So what do I mean by this? This isn't some high ticket bullshit, okay? You need to have a 10-year career horizon. So I'm in sales, I'm now a sales representative. I'm not just an online closer, I'm a legitimate account executive for businesses, helping them generate revenue. By you stepping into this identity that this is now my career, this isn't just a quick cash grab where I'm just doing it for 2 to 3 years, even if you are, have the identity that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Most people have careers for 40 to 50 years, okay? And we're now in an age or a day and age where careers are changing every 12 months. People are jumping from one thing to the next. If you come in, the best reps come into the sales space, and the best reps that perform at the highest level, like I mentioned, the $35,000 per month reps, have a career mindset. They're not just doing this for quick cash, they're doing this to advance their entire career. So a very basic one, career mindset, not a high ticket bullshit mindset. What notes do I have on this? The high ticket coaching industry has trained an entire generation to think this is a get rich quick skill. It's not, it's a craft. The people who treat it like a craft will outperform the people chasing the quick payday every single time. You don't rise to the top by chasing commissions, you rise to the top by treating it like a craft, like you're growing a legitimate skill set. Very self-explanatory. Okay, so what have we covered so far? Well, let's go back to the top of the page, the internal versus the external viewpoint, massive one. My favorite one, number two, the frame that you're consistently putting the prospect in, the frame that you're consistently updating on the call. Number three, the self-image, massive one as well. Number four, very unique one, a career mindset, not the high ticket bullshit. And two more, number five, a classic one, could be in the basic six, but it's alignment. Making sure that you are aligned with who you say you are. Okay, very, very generic, but extremely overlooked. JJ Hernandez, one of the greatest sales mentors that I've ever had, his favorite line or his famous line is, who you are outside of your sales calls is who you are inside of your sales calls. You've probably heard this before. If you don't have alignment and act like the person you want to be outside of your sales calls, you can never flip a switch and just suddenly become that individual on the sales calls. When I first work with you as a sales rep or even as a business owner, I'm going to make sure you're actually acting out of who you are and you're not putting on a mask or trying to increase your energy and be someone else on calls. You're going to burn out very quickly. You're only going to be able to take 4 or 5 calls a day, and you're ultimately going to create 2 identities, and you're going to lead to hating sales and hating the job and maybe even hating yourself because you're two different people. Okay, so self-alignment, aligning with what you say you're going to do, you actually do. What do I have around this? Alignment isn't a sales tactic, it's a way of being. Okay, it either runs through everything or it leaks through everything. There's no middle. It's a great line. It either runs through everything or it leaks through everything. Think about that. Make sure you're aligned with the actions, or you're taking the actions that are aligned with who you want to be. And you're saying or you're doing the things that you say you're going to do. A massive one. Chase Hughes, one of my favorite mentors at the moment. Micro hesitations are the fastest way to destroy authority. So if you hesitate on a call because you hesitate outside of the call, instant authority gone. That frame that we've set, those multiple frames we've set, lost, gone. Prospects without focus, without authority, and without a frame are never going to close. Now, final one, and I'll wrap this up. I know it's gone on a little bit longer, super raw video, but I hope you get some takeaways from this, just from my journey, I guess you could say, my experience. The last one is analogies. Analogies, however you want to pronounce it. But telling stories on calls, giving analogies on calls, something I've tapped into a lot more recently, and the impact of this and the connection, the rapport that you build, the openness that you create with prospects, with your team, with different individuals is unbelievable. The way I look at it, right, on a sales call, as a sales closer, as an account executive, we demand so many questions, we demand so many answers from our prospects that it can feel like a Q&A or an interrogation if you don't do it correctly. If I lead with openness, I tell my story, I explain why I'm doing what I do, etc., and I give some more context, they're naturally going to match that with even more openness. If I make myself vulnerable, they're going to make their self vulnerable, and the best way to do that is through different stories of your experiences, but then really good analogies that people can laugh at, because humor breaks any tension, that people that can relate to as well. So what have I got here? Stories land what facts can't. Okay. Analogies do the work in seconds. Feature lists take 20 minutes and still don't land. So you can go through all of the logistical deliverables of your pitch, or you can give a couple of different analogies around exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to help you, and through the humor and through the connection and the deeper meaning. People are connected to stories. We've been connected to stories our whole life. We're consistently living in a story. Essentially, we are a story. So when I land or tell a story, it lands so much deeper in terms of like the core root of them, rather than just a fact list of all the deliverables that we have. So that's the final one. Start using stories, start using analogies, start to take what happens to you in life and actually reflect on it and realize that you can create a story out of it, you can create an analogy out of it, and that can lead to influencing someone or benefiting someone by just telling them your experience, and then they're much more open to share their experience as well. A very overlooked one, I think not very spoken about, or not spoken about very much. So I want to finish with this. If you haven't noticed, every single one of these 6 traits come back to the same thing. What do we think that thing is? Well, it's the top number 1 trait that I spoke about, the internal versus the external lens. Top closers work in the internal variable. Average closers, average sales rep work in the external variable. Okay, they set frames because they've built the self-image of a leader. Okay, they walk in alignment, they walk in aligned to the call because they've done the internal work of saying only what they were going to do, okay, or what they'll deliver. They treat this as a career because they're understanding that compounding works on as a craft. So what do I mean by that? Compounding interest is the greatest thing in mankind. Warren Buffett said that. Compound your skill sets. Look at it as a 10-year career and you'll be amazed at the skills that you can create in that period of time. They work on themselves while the average closer works on the leads. That's essentially the entire game. We know this. So if you're stuck, an average performer, an average income, blaming the conditions, go back through the first 6 traits and then master those ones, and then dive into the real 6 traits, so to say. Pick one that you don't want to look at, because that's probably the one that you have to work on the most. Again, the ego always covers us up of what we truly need to do. I think I've experienced this as of recent a little bit, and being able to observe, increase my awareness, become more aware of my mind and what's going on, and realize the direct truth of multiple situations, the truth of the world, has allowed me to improve things, but I didn't realize that until I zoomed out of the ego and looked at something that I was very uncomfortable with, something that I didn't want to look at, and that's exactly what I have to do, if you understand me. So top closers aren't built differently, they just have higher enough awareness of the truth and of reality. So if you've never heard of these 6 traits before, or these 12 traits that I broke down, I'm going to create a lot more videos probably diving deeper into these traits. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this is just some repeated online Instagram guru bullshit, or if it's actually beneficial to you guys. Really excited if you can install even just 2, 3, or 4 of these traits into your sales process, more importantly into who you are. I guarantee if you commit with 100% conviction and 100% confidence, you will become a 4, 5, 6 times better performer than you currently are. Have a good day. I'll speak to you soon.